Since 2023, I've listened to Alex Hormozi for over 700 hours. And to be honest, most of what he said I completely forgot, but there's one thing that really stuck. This is the core philosophy that underpins how Alex thinks and how he makes decisions, and implementing this one core philosophy completely transformed my life. So in this video, I'm going to break down this core philosophy, how Alex uses it, and how I implemented this into my life and in my business to achieve excellence across multiple domains. I discovered Alex Hormozi back in 2023, and while there are a few books like The 4-Hour Workweek that made me want to be an entrepreneur, Alex was really the one that pushed me over the edge. At the time, I was working a corporate 9-to-5 job, and I really didn't like that. All I wanted to do was be an entrepreneur. Every single day I had to cycle into work, which took me about 45 minutes. But during this cycle, I had my earphones in and I was listening to Alex Hormozi's podcast, The Game. On my lunch breaks, I would walk around Melbourne City and I would listen to The Game. On my cycle home, I would listen to The Game. I was racking up a good 2 hours every single day listening to Alex Hormozi. On top of watching a whole bunch of his YouTube videos, I racked up about 700 hours over the course of a year. From all of those hours, the one thing that really stuck out to me was the way that Alex thinks about the world, and that is through the lens of behavioralism. Behavioralism is where you think about everything in the world, not by what people intend to do, not by the way that people think or the way people feel, but simply the way people act. And if you simply look at the way people act, you can explain almost every single outcome that happens in the world. Multiple times he said, "This is the only way that the world makes sense to me." And honestly, after implementing this, I feel the exact same way. Because if you simply look at the outcomes that people get in their life, every single thing that happens, and you bring it back to what set of actions did this individual take, you can very, very easily predict and explain the outcomes that were achieved. I think there are really three key ways that Alex has implemented behavioralism into his business and into his life to achieve such monumental success. And if we can bring this into our businesses and into our lives, we can progress extremely quickly. The first one here is to judge yourself based on your outputs, not based on your intention. The core theory of behavioralism here is that the outcomes that you get in your life, the results that you get, come as a consequence of the actions that you take. Not what you thought, not what you intended to do, not how you felt, simply what you did. And rather than thinking and judging yourself based on your intentions, simply judging yourself based on the scorecard of what actions did I take will much more clearly predict the likelihood that you actually achieve some sort of success. I remember so clearly back at the start of 2025 when Alex was trying to help a guy grow his consulting business on school. Now, this wasn't any kind of consulting business. This was a manifestation business. And after about 45 minutes of Alex explaining how we can grow his business, like, okay, here's how you can improve your lead flow, and this is how you can improve your conversion. After a while, he just went, you know what? I really don't like manifestation. And his theory was just so strong. It just made so much sense that it just blew my mind. He simply said this. He said, these are your thoughts, these are your actions, and these are your outcomes. If you change your thoughts, but you don't change your actions, you won't change your outcomes. If you don't change your thoughts and you don't change your actions, you won't change your outcomes. If you don't change your thoughts and you change your actions, you will change your outcomes. What is the common factor here? It's all the actions. It doesn't matter how you think. It's simply the actions. It's simply the behaviors. And this came all the way back to behavioralism. And when he said this just blew my mind. And this was actually what made me want to create my first ever YouTube video. And my first ever YouTube video was literally about this concept of how the only thing that's going to change your life is changing your actions. And after I heard that, I thought, well, all I've been doing is thinking about growing a business and thinking about growing a personal brand and thinking about doing all these things, but I'm not taking any action. I'm not doing the behaviors. So after I heard that, I said, okay, that's it. I'm just going to start taking action. I'm just going to upload my first YouTube video. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. This is absolutely just makes sense. This just makes sense for me. The funny thing about that YouTube video is I'm sitting there in my backyard and I'm talking into a microphone. Now, this microphone is not even plugged in. Talk about an imperfect first rep, but I didn't care. I just thought, okay, well, after watching this again, I actually don't have the microphone plugged in, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to get my first rep in and I'm going to start actually taking action. And this really brings us to the second key point that Alex focuses on when it comes to behavioralism, and that is doing imperfect actions. See, Alex is a big fan of doing a lot of volume. He talks about how competence is created through reps, through just doing a huge amount of reps. And oftentimes people put off that first rep for weeks, for months and years, because they think this is going to suck, this is going to be bad. Guess what? It is going to be bad, but it doesn't matter. It's just about getting that first rep on the board and improving. And this really brings us to one of the things that Alex loves, and that is definitions. And I love the way he defines two terms in particular. The first one is learning. Alex defines learning as same condition, different behavior. Notice something common here, the behavior. He defines learning as how do you change your behaviors when faced with the same condition? And this really all comes back to us taking imperfect action. See, you may start off and you may take a bad action, but after you're faced with that action and after you're faced with the exact same condition, how do you change your behavior to improve that action slightly? If you can continue to change that behavior and improve slightly, then it really becomes a volume game of how many reps can I put in so I keep getting better and better and better and better. And really the other variable here, which is another one of Alex's great definitions, is how he defines intelligence. And he simply defines intelligence as rate of learning. And what is learning? Same condition, different behavior. So an intelligent person is simply someone that changes their behaviors quickly when they're faced with the exact same condition. So thinking about it like this, I thought, okay, that's so simple. All you have to do is start by taking action. You take action and then you try to improve slightly. You keep making improvements and changes over time as you take more and more and more and more reps. But this all came back to taking imperfect action. Rather than sitting there absolutely paralyzed in fear, waiting to take that first rep, do that first action, just realizing that the first rep is always going to suck. It's always going to be bad. But the only thing that sucks more than that is doing 0 reps. Because if you do 0 reps, you never learn, you never improve, you never get better, and you can never progress to that next level. The third way that Alex has implemented behavioralism really allows him to not just achieve success, but almost guarantee it. It's almost impossible for him to fail and not be huge when he implements this. And this is just focusing on one thing for a long enough time horizon that it is unreasonable to not achieve your goal. See, most people think that the goals they achieve are going to be faster and easier than they thought. And when it isn't that way, they think that there's something wrong, but there isn't. The more reps that we put into something, the more we learn, as in we continue to change our behaviors to the same conditions, the better that we get at it. And over time, we start to build this critical mass of competency where we start to achieve these exponential returns. And this comes back to one of the things that Alex really likes talking about, and that is being impatient with your actions, but patient with your outcomes. See, when it comes to the behaviors, to the actions that we're taking, we want to be taking the right actions and we want to be doing them quickly to progress as fast as possible. This is what we can control. The outcomes are going to come as a consequence of these behaviors, but you don't know exactly when this is going to happen. And especially when you're working in compounding vehicles, things like building a brand, things like building a business, oftentimes there is a delay between the actions that you take and the results that you get. So we have to remain patient with our outcomes, but impatient with our inputs, with the actions that we take. This is one of the key frameworks that I held really, really deep and very close to me. And there was the idea that unless the fundamental assumptions change, unless the fundamental assumptions of what you're building are proven wrong, then you just have to continue taking actions for a long enough period of time that it will be unreasonable that you don't achieve these results. If you look at the YouTube channel that you're watching right now, I set out to build a personal brand to help a certain subset of people, and it took me an entire year of posting 3 videos every single week to only get 300 subscribers into this channel. Now, according to Alex's definition of intelligence, you can say that I was probably a bit of an idiot because I was not changing my behaviors very quickly as a response to my lack of growth. However, I really kept this close to me that fundamentally growing a brand is an incredibly powerful thing to do, but also it is something that just takes time and consistency to do. So I'm not going to quit. And just 3 months later, I was able to get up to 4,000 subscribers and continue to grow. If I hadn't have believed this very, very closely, then I would have given up. I would have said, YouTube doesn't work, and I would have quit. But the reality is, all of these things work. It's just, are you doing the work for a long enough period of time to see them work for you? So I want to go a little bit deeper into how I implemented behavioralism into my life to make what I would consider very, very fast growth, because I think for you guys, this will be very valuable at seeing how did I extract these lessons and bring it into today. Now I need to make something clear. The way I think about the world, the way I think about the outcomes that happen in my life is all through this frame of behavioralism, but the actions I take are slightly different to Alex's, and that's as a consequence of what I want from my life. See, Alex is playing the game where he works basically every waking hour of the day to try and become the GOAT, to try and become the best, to try and become a billionaire, right? This is his goal. For me, I'm playing a slightly different game. Rather than working every waking hour of the day, I'm working about 4.5 hours of the day. I'm trying to get the best possible returns on that work time so I can build wealth, so I can build my business and build my impact, but also have time to progress a lot of different other areas of my life and have a bit of freedom to enjoy everything that I've unlocked along the way. So I really break my day up into 3 different sets of behaviors, and these are based on the goals that I'm trying to achieve. The first section of the day is just allocated to growing my business. For me, this is the number one goal. This is the North Star, because not only does growing your wealth just unlock more of the world, more possibilities, but for me, this is also expanding and growing my impact that I can have on other people. This is really genuinely fulfilling and purposeful work that I do. So this remains the first block of the day. This is about 4.5 hours every single day that I just dedicate to doing and focusing on what are the actions that can progress me the fastest to the next level of the game of business. This is all I focus on, is how do I choose the behaviors that progress me the absolute fastest. So after I finish this section of the day and I've progressed my North Star forward, the next section of the day is allocated to my side quests. Now for me, my side quests are related to health and they're related to language learning. So during this window, generally it's me doing some sort of workout and it's me generally learning languages probably at the same time. So for example, if I'm doing a long run, I'll also be listening to French comprehensible input. Maybe I'll be lifting weights. Whatever I'm doing, it's usually some sort of workout and some sort of language learning. So this takes me maybe 2 hours. And then the whole back end of the day, I enjoy for complete freedom. Now, the beauty of this is that there are no defined actions to take in this window. If I want to continue to grow my business and continue to progress the North Star, then I'll allocate this time to doing that. If I want to spend this time learning more languages, then I'll do that. Because I'm a digital nomad and I'm living in different interesting places, I could be spending this time traveling and experiencing a new city. I could be spending this time going out on dates, going to events. It's pure potential. It's pure potential time. And I think the beauty of this system is that it means that I have these 4 hours of behaviors that just progress me the fastest and build my wealth. But this means that I unlock so many more options in the back end of the day. So it really works as a flywheel where the more I unlock here, the more I get to experience on the back end of the day. But I really think about breaking up the day into a set of actions. These actions progress my business forward. These actions push forward my side quests. And these actions are simply for me to enjoy everything I've unlocked as a consequence. In terms of the side quest piece, I've been able to progress my running to go from a beginner runner to running a marathon in about 6 weeks and then run 13 marathons in 13 months while gaining 17 pounds in the gym. And then in terms of the language learning, I actually was able to spend 4 hours every single day consuming Spanish input content for 7 months to become conversationally fluent, which was pretty cool. And in terms of the freedom piece, because I had the time and location freedom, I've been able to go and travel and live around the world while I continue to expand the business and expand the side quest. So I'm currently living in Latin America. I was in Buenos Aires. I'm currently in Mexico City. And because I unlocked the language, I've been able to utilize the language. And as I continue to progress the business further forward, I continue to unlock more freedom on the back end and more things to do. I think behavioralism really changed just how I perceive the world and how I perceive the goals that I'm trying to get to. I think it's a lot more objective when you just think about the outcomes you get as a consequence of the actions you take. And for me, breaking up my day into actions like this has really allowed me to predictably see growth and progress in every single aspect of my life. Now, when it comes to what I did, consuming 700 hours of Alex Hormozi content, I actually think this is a bad idea for just about anyone's content. And the reason for that isn't because the content isn't valuable, but it's more that you're consuming a bunch of information, is going through your ears, and you can't implement it, you can't take action on it immediately. So after a while, you just forget about all this information. There might be a few things that stick, but to be honest, from my experience of consuming 700 hours of Alex Hormozi content, the big takeaway is just this way of thinking. For me, I like to learn just in time, not just in case. What are the set of actions required to get me to the next level? Is there a deficiency I have in the knowledge? If so, let me learn how to cover this deficiency and continue to progress forward. But when I was listening to Hormozi content, I remember cycling into work and listening to him talk about scaling to a 50-person sales team. And I'm listening to this thinking, oh, I'm being so productive. I can't wait to be able to implement this. But the reality is, I didn't even have a business. It was so far gone from where I was. A lot of times we're trying to solve level 10 problems when we realize that we're actually at level 0 right now. So I really think that if we want to progress quickly, focusing on the actions, focusing on the behaviors is a really important thing. And when we need to learn, we learn to progress and to change our behaviors to push us to the next level as quickly as possible. If you're a high ticket consultant or agency owner and you're looking to build out these kind of behavior systems to progress your business faster, spending less time at the desk so you can push forward all the other goals you have in your life, then you can check out the Modern Monk community. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. For everyone else, if you want to figure out how to become so insanely consistent that you don't need luck, you can check out this video right here. So I'll either see you in the Modern Monk community or in that video. Cheers.